It's game week 13 and I am on a free hit, but with a Liverpool-shaped elephant in the room and one player being massively overlooked by free hitters. We've got so much data, so much evidence, so many screenshots today as I lock in my free hit team for FPL game week 13. Welcome to FPL Mate. My name is Dan. Happy Thursday, everyone, or Friday if you're watching this on Friday. Game week 13 deadline is approaching. Very quickly, we do need to go over my game week 12 scores. I know it's very boring today, but a green arrow around 90,000 places, which is okay. A pretty boring game week, to be honest. Not too many big scorers. Most people had fairly low scores in this game week. I did go for the differential captain Saka in the end, but it couldn't quite really come up clutch, even in a 4-1 victory there. I got an auto sub of Malik Chow, 4-pointer in for Semenyo and obviously Alderete as well, neither of which did play. So no big bench jam for me. Captain, differential captain, outscored Haaland, but you know, maybe nothing massive here. So I think it is just time to move on into game week 13. And if you like, guys, please feel free to drop a like on the video. It really does help out the channel, and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content. And if you hit the hype button as well next to the comment section, that also really does help the channel if you do enjoy FPL Mate content. Massively appreciated, guys. Right, here we go, guys. Game week 13 free hit team, and this is not the template team. It is obviously going to have some popular players in it, but you know me, guys, I do like to try things a little bit different if I think there is evidence to show that we can make some gains on the crowd. So we're going to be trying to do that today, and I think the best way to start off today's video is looking at why my team needs a free hit and why so many of your teams might need a free hit this week as well. I'm sure most of you have already decided on whether you're going to free hit or not, but let's throw this on screen, coming in from Rob T, and these are the teams to target, and we're looking at the projected goals and the clean sheet odds. Now, when I look at this this table, what we see for game week 13 is that Man City, Liverpool, Brentford, and Aston Villa have the highest projected goals for game week 13. And for clean sheets, we see Man City, Brentford, and Aston Villa primarily the standout teams in that metric as well. So I look through my normal team, my non-free hit team, if you like, and how many players do I have from these teams? The 4 teams with the highest projected goals and the 3 teams with the best clean sheet odds. Who do I have? I have Erling Haaland. That is it. He is the only attacker I have from Man City, Liverpool, Brentford, and Aston Villa, and I have no defenders from Man City, Brentford, or Aston Villa there. So what we have is a clear sign that my team is not optimized for game week 13. And this is in part by design. When I've been picking players running up to this point, I haven't really been prioritizing game week 13 because I always knew it was very likely that I would be free hitting here. So if I did pick some slightly weaker players and maybe ignore some of the stronger players for game week 13, it's kind of no problem because I know a free hit will be able to bail me out. So if you're in a similar situation to me, whereby your regular non-free hit team is really lacking in the top teams in this table, then that may be some evidence that this could be a good week to free hit for you. If you'd have a few Brentford players, a few Man City players, maybe have multiple Liverpool players in attack, or even Aston Villa players, or you can get to them easily using your transfers, then maybe you don't need to free hit. But this is why I am. And I want to kick off by going obviously towards the defensive players, and we are really going to justify players when we're talking about them today. So just bear in mind the clean sheet odds first of all, guys. Man City, Brentford, and Aston Villa. And in all likeliness, the majority of your defense is going to be comprised from players from these 3 teams if you are on a free hit this week. Man City, Brentford, and Aston Villa. Now, there'll be some people sniffing around some of the teams maybe at the 30% plus clean sheet odds. Maybe Liverpool, maybe Spurs, maybe Arsenal, maybe Newcastle, probably not. But outside of that, really, if you're looking for clean sheets particularly, then yeah, not really many other teams are appealing. Of course, if you're looking for attacking threat, you know, maybe you're considering Daniel Munoz, Crystal Palace, 25% clean sheet odds. But we're going to go through everything because we do need to consider not just the clean sheets, but also the attacking potential. So let's start off in goal with Martinez. 41% chance of a clean sheet according to the projections for Aston Villa, and I think that's probably about right for Martinez. Now, I do prefer an Aston Villa goalkeeper to an Aston Villa defender. There's no problem with having both, but I think with Aston Villa in particular, the defenders, they don't really offer too much outside of clean sheet potential. So they typically score pretty low on bonus points. They don't get defensive contributions, and their attacking threat is very limited. I know we've seen a little bit from Matty Cash this season, but typically, you know, the odd long range shot, you know, the odd cross, but it is not high volume compared to a lot of the other traditionally more attacking defenders that we see in FPL. So I like Martinez as a goalkeeper, and I think that's a pretty straightforward pick where we can actually prioritize the defensive slots for players who not only have good clean sheet odds, but also have that attacking threat, have that defensive contribution kind of potential there, and also bonus points as well, because these are the kind of areas where our defenders are going to score points. So let's go into the defense next, guys, and we're going to start off with Nico O'Reilly. And I think this is going to be a really obvious one to start us off. If you're going for a Man City defender for one game week only, O'Reilly is a good place to start. Man City in particular are a team where we can be reasonably confident about the starting 11 compared to usual, at least, which is rare. Another reason why this is a good week to free hit. A good fixture where we can predict the starting 11. I like that stuff. Because what we saw in the midweek is Man City heavily rotated. And in that game where they heavily rotated, the players didn't really, look up to scratch against Leverkusen. So it wasn't a great performance from the second string Man City team. So we've got those fully rested Premier League starters presumably are going to all come straight back into the starting 11, which is going to include Nico O'Reilly. Now, he's a stand-up out pick, not just because Man City have the best defensive or clean sheet odds of the game week with 47%, but actually O'Reilly really nice in attack. So let's go through some of the best attacking defenders in FPL so far this season. We've got the data on screen coming in from Fantasy Football Hub. We know Munoz and Timber are the best attacking players typically, but if we look slightly down the list, going from the 0.3 XGI per start players like Munoz and Timber, and we go to the 0.2 XGI, so expected goal involvements per start players, and we're looking at players like Calafiori and O'Reilly here. Gabriel, interestingly, fits this category as well, and we know how good he is in attack. So O'Reilly, he is, a player who is creative. He is taking shots as well. He is kind of a left back, getting fairly advanced, but also has a decent size to him. He's a tall lad, and he can be a bit of a set-piece threat as well. So we are seeing some genuine attacking threat from him. We're not going to see too many defensive contributions from Man City pretty much ever. But if we're looking for a player who has good defensive, a good defensive or clean sheet chances, very good in Man City's case, and a decent attacking threat here, that is two very important boxes ticked. And of course, a clean sheet and an attacking return, which is very, very feasible for someone like O'Reilly. We're also going to be looking at bonus points there as well. Looking slightly further down the list, I do want to point out another player, and that is actually going to be Van den Berg, who has been actually genuinely pretty good for expected goal involvements, particularly as a set-piece target man, where he's taking 2 shots in 3 games, which is pretty decent. He's had 3 big chances this season already. That's pretty nice, as 4.5 million, and so obviously we know as well, Brentford are a good team for clean sheet odds this week with 43%. They're second behind Man City in their game against Burnley. So let's go to my next defenders, guys. And it's not just Van den Berg, but also Collins. So we're going to go for the 2 guys here, the 2 guys from Brentford. Obviously, we can't have loads of Man City defenders if we also want their attackers, which we very much do, since Man City are also the best for goal projections for Game Week 13. So how about we invest in the Brentford defense instead? Pretty interesting stuff. They're pretty cheap. We know they are nailed on for minutes. We know in Van den Berg's case, he's pretty good for attacking contributions as well. A set-piece threat against the Burnley side that does concede chances from set pieces. West Ham, the worst defense when it comes to defending set pieces, conceding headers. But Burnley are actually the second worst in this regard. So you are going to have this opportunity. And by covering both Van den Berg and Collins, you kind of cover all bases here. So I want to show you guys on screen a little bit more on attacking contributions, goal involvements. And this is the Brentford defenders, Van den Berg, Coyote, and Collins over the season. And Van den Berg is way out in front of Collins, but that's really in terms of XG. In terms of the actual shot volume, it is a little bit closer, and I think over a larger sample size, we could see these players come slightly closer together in terms of how many shots these guys are taking, but they are both players who will be target men when it comes to those set pieces. Coyote is also on here, but a lot of his XGI actually comes in creativity, so expected assists, a lot of key passes, a lot of that is throw-ins, to be fair, and he generated a lot in the game against West Ham in particular, not really shown too much consistency in that regard. So I still do think I prefer Vandenberg and Collins, and the final reason for that is going to be the defensive contributions, really. So let's look at a table of the most defensive contributions from any defender in the Premier League this season. And what we see is both Collins and Vandenberg both make the top 20 comfortably, actually. Collins in the top 10 and Vandenberg is what I can't exactly work out where that is. That's like, what's 12th, 13th, something like that. There's a lot of players on 106 there. So interestingly, both of these players are players capable of getting defensive contributions, and you need to make a lot of defensive contributions generally to get defensive contributions against Burnley, because typically only the very best DEFCON defenders will get DEFCONs against Burnley, and even then it is not guaranteed, because obviously stylistically Burnley not playing with much of the ball, and there's not actually as much opportunity for the defenders playing against Burnley to pick up DEFCON points. So it is possible, but it's not like definite or anything like that. But still, these are decent players for defense for bonus points as well. So I think there's actually a lot to love in the Brentford defense this week, in terms of ticking a lot of boxes. And if you are a little concerned about the Brentford defense generally, I did check this out the other day, guys, so I may as well share this with you now. I thought this was pretty interesting, actually. What we've got here is the last 10 game weeks, so maybe this gives us a slightly better idea of form. I just kind of was playing around with game week ranges, and I thought, okay, let's just check out the last 10 game weeks, who have been the best defenses, the lowest amount of non-penalty expected goals conceded, who's coming out on top here. Of course, it's going to be Arsenal. But I was super interested to see the Brentford actually coming in second here. So in terms of those, those high quality chances, they don't concede that many really at all, which is super interesting. I know they've only kept one clean sheet during this period, but the data suggests that actually they've been a little bit unfortunate. And I think a big part of that is to do with who Brentford have played so far this season. They've had some really tough fixtures, with all of their good fixtures really coming in the next 10 game weeks, really. So I think it's really interesting to see here that Brentford actually, in terms of that underlying data, have been a fairly solid defence. And playing against a Burnley side that doesn't actually offer that much quality in attack, you do have to wonder, is this the best bet for a clean sheet this week outside of Man City? Everything suggests it is. So loads of boxes ticked for those Brentford defenders. So we have put them in the team. Let's next move on into the midfield. But before we do, just a quick shout out here. Today, I'm on Fantasy Gaming Hub, the new game where you can open packs, buy and sell players, and build a mini fantasy team to compete with. Okay, I'm going to open some packs to see if I can build a pretty decent squad. We're going to go for a gold pack right off the rip. Let's open it up. Oh man, Xavi Simons, not so good right now. Hey, Cody Gakpo, we will maybe take this one actually. Okay, Jared Bowen, that's not so bad here. We will definitely take Nunez here as well. Okay, we're starting to build a pretty strong team. Third pack and third time's the charm. Surely this is the one. Let's go, Jurrien Timber. This is what we wanted. Yes, indeed. We've also got Jean-Philippe Mateta. Okay, now we are looking good. So I've built my two teams now, one for the Saturday games and a second team for the Sunday games. That's how it works. You play per day. And I have to say, I think for a starter team, this is not too bad at all. And hopefully Man City and maybe a bit of Arsenal and maybe a bit of Liverpool can really pull me through, but we'll have to see what happens. Once you've built your team, you can either play against your mates or rise up the public division. Since I'm a noob, I'm only on the kickabout division right now, but if I can do well here, I can win in-game prizes and real-life prizes. Open more packs and keep rising up the ranks. It's a fantasy football road to glory. It's completely free to play and you can get free packs just by logging in, so what are you waiting for? Download the Fantasy Gaming app using the link in the video description or the QR code on screen, and you can get your free packs right away. Who knows, maybe you'll even pack Haaland. Okay, let's crack on into the midfield, guys. We spent a lot of time on defense there, but I think there was a lot of things that needed to be justified when picking defenders for this game week. But the midfield is interesting, and we're going to have to address the Liverpool elephant in the room. Let's go ahead and do that, because the first two players in my midfield are going to be Salah and Gakpo. And I know some people are not going to be happy with that. I should remind you that this is a free hit team. I'm not suggesting picking up Salah and Gakpo as permanent picks. That would be so risky to hold these players in your team long term. But I do think there is enough evidence to suggest that Salah and Gakpo, maybe Szoboszlai as well, are genuinely really strong picks for Game Week 13 in isolation. And I'm going to try and explain why. If you disagree, of course, that's fine. You don't have to pick Liverpool players in your FPL teams this week. But look, I'm going to explain why I'm doing it at least. So first of all, let's go to this table. And this is a table of the last 6 game weeks, and we've got it in order of all midfielders, in order of expected goal involvements per start. So every midfielder in FPL, and who is at the top? It's Cody Gakpo. Who is in 4th place? It is Mo Salah. So these are 2 players that have high volumes of shots, of creativity there. I mean, like in terms of shots in particular, no midfielder is taking more per start than Mo Salah in the entire Premier League right now. So high volumes of shots here, and we kind of knew that already. We knew there was going to be high volumes of shot. We knew there was going to be, you know, a lot of creativity, high key pass numbers, because the last 2 games, yes, Liverpool have lost those last 2 games, but you know, they've created, you know, 20 plus chances in these games, or last game, for example. So they are still taking plenty of shots and creating loads. Just hasn't quite been finding the back of the net recently. So it's not for lack of effort. They really are putting in some really high numbers here. And if we're looking at this underlying data to suggest, okay, you take a lot of shots, you make a lot of key passes, eventually one is going to find the back of the net, then I think that is some evidence that does point towards going for Gakpo and Salah in this particular game week. But I don't think it ends there, to be honest. And I know, again, people are going to be looking at the result against PSV. By the way, where Gakpo got an assist, had another big chance to score there. I thought he played pretty well. I think, you know, when we look at Liverpool and their team, has it really been Gakpo and Salah who have been the letdowns? I mean, Salah had almost 1 XGA. Like, he created so much against PSV. So there's that. So these players are creating, they are shooting, and they're not actually playing like horrifically badly. If we're looking at the main culprits from Liverpool and why they're performing poorly, probably not Gakpo and Salah really at the moment. Maybe that's just my opinion, to be honest. But let's check this out, guys. So this is the real key here. So we know Liverpool are generating a lot of chances. We know Gakpo and Salah are heavily involved and really outclassing all other midfielders in this regard. But the question is, if Liverpool just lost to PSV, they lost to Nottingham Forest, what's different about this West Ham game? Well, this is what's different, guys. So this is a table next of non-penalty expected goals against since West Ham hired Nuno as manager. So we knew that West Ham were a weak defence in the opening 5 game weeks. Is there any evidence that they've improved? Absolutely not. They sit second bottom in this table, where we see 11.6 non-penalty expected goals against in 7 games. Last game week, for example, against Bournemouth generated 4 XG against West Ham. The game week before, it was Burnley scored twice against West Ham. So no matter how bad you think Liverpool are right now, it's not like West Ham are suddenly this solid defence. They are really not. And I think I do fancy West Ham to score against Liverpool this week, because in attack, West Ham have improved. But defensively, I think maybe it's a personnel issue. But they've been horror, and they continue to be horror. So we're looking at a Liverpool team that's generating a huge amount of chances against a horror West Ham team. This could be a 3-3 draw, a 4-4 draw. I'm absolutely fine with that as someone who is only invested in Liverpool attackers. It makes sense. Few more things of note. Obviously, we know West Ham do have a weakness to set pieces, a significant weakness, might I add. Well, Gakpo's like 6'3", 6'4" guy, can get on the end of some of those chances in the box. And who's taking the corners right now? Salah, actually taking a lot of corners, and his delivery, I think, has actually been pretty decent from corners as well. So, you know, I do, in a way, kind of fancy Salah to do something in this game. I think this is actually pretty interesting. Maybe it's a goal, maybe it's a penalty, maybe it's an assist. By the way, West Ham, I think they've conceded 3 penalties as well since Nuno took over. So, you know, you don't know where the points are going to come from. But, you know, they could really come from anywhere. Maybe it's 2 penalties, actually. But still, you don't know where the chances are going to come from. But if a team is conceding a lot and another team is taking a lot of shots, creating a lot of chances, that kind of does back up that maybe, you know, for Liverpool attackers in particular, I don't know if they'll win or not, but they're going to have so many opportunities. PSV, not the same team, you know, leading the Eredivisie, doing very well, actually dominating the Eredivisie this season. We've got Nottingham Forest, who are vastly improved under Sean Dyche defensively, and even they conceded loads of chances to Liverpool in the first half of the game. So, you know, maybe it's going to be a game state thing. Maybe Liverpool just need to score first before capitulating. But really, I just think, you know, Liverpool attackers is a good idea. You know, some people will say I would rather have, you know, I don't know, Kevin Schade and leave 8 million in the bank than go for Salah. Come on, let's be sensible here for a second. Like, I get it. Salah is not worth 14 million. I would never pick him for my regular team right now, but we're on a free hit. If you're going to have loads of money in the bank anyway, why not go for a set piece taking, penalty taking man against like one of the weakest defenses in the entire league? It seems so obvious, right? If you have that extra money to spend. So that's why Salah's in my team. That's why Gakpo's in my team. And I hope that makes sense to you guys. All the way, by the way, also, Ekatike, minor injury there as well. So that could reduce his minutes. And Florian Wirtz is going to maybe train this weekend before the game. Maybe not. Unlikely to start that game as well. So I think Salah and Gakpo's minutes are fairly secure this week as well. Our next midfielder, by the way, guys, is going to be Foden. I think I would rather do this fairly quickly because I know this is a template pick. But looking through the Man City attackers right now, Foden is putting up the best data right now. When you watch the games, he does look the most dangerous in a Man City shirt at the moment, or at least outside of Erling Haaland. So, yeah, I do think Foden does make a lot of sense there as a pick. You could maybe go for Doku or Cherky, but I think that would mostly be for budget reasons more than anything else. I think Foden is the standout player here. And we've got Rodgers here as well to complete the 4-man midfield. And I think this is a player who I can't really evidence why he is a good pick, but he's just scored 2 goals. He faces Wolves at home. Wolves are obviously a very weak team, although say it quietly, but I think Wolves are on a positive trajectory. I thought they looked a bit better against Crystal Palace, actually, but we'll wait and see, you know, how true that ends up being. But certainly, I think, you know, it's very difficult to back against Rodgers this week. It really, really is. Again, not really a player I'd be picking for a permanent team. You know, a lot of these players, kind of like Rodgers, has Brighton next and then Arsenal after that. So not really sure he's like a permanent pick, but just like the Brentford guys, I think for a 1-week punt, a player in form, you know, going into what is on paper a favourable fixture, it's just keeping things simple, really, isn't it? So yeah, we're going to keep things simple with Rodgers, but again, struggling to evidence it in terms of the data, I suppose. Let's go up front, and we'll start with our 2 obvious guys, and that is going to be Haaland and Thiago. We don't need to talk about these pretty much at all. You guys already all know that these are great forwards, but I have actually got a 3rd forward in this team. And don't worry, it's not 1 goal in 17 games, Ollie Watkins. Look, I like the Wolves fixture, but I needed a bit of form going into it as well to pick a player in that fixture, I think. You know, Rodgers is fine, Watkins maybe too far. But there is another forward who I really do like the look of in this game week. And I'm going to try and convince you why he is a good pick. If you disagree, absolutely fine with me, but I'm going to do my best here. So let's look at the table of non-penalty expected goals past 6 game weeks. We've got Haaland in here in number 1. We've got Thiago a little bit lower. He has depended a little bit on penalties to generate his XG recently, but still a pretty decent pick, really decent numbers, even without the penalty. So that's fine by me. Mateta is still in second. Yeah, elephant in the room. A lot of that did come in the Bournemouth game, but you know, Mateta has shown that he can explode in games, and he's facing Manchester United at home. And I think this is where things are, I don't know. I think it's maybe more of a kind of a tactical pick. So let's see this next table, guys. I told you we've got a lot of tables today. So this table here is a Premier League table of teams ordered by non-penalty expected goals against during the entirety of the season, but in away games only. And Manchester United's away form is on par with Burnley. Yes, they are conceding so many chances, so many goals when they play away from home. They're conceding 2 goals on average. They're about the same for that expected goals against as well. So they concede a huge amount when playing away from home. Their away form is just awful, absolutely awful. And we know Crystal Palace's home form, on the other hand, is pretty strong. Very, very good indeed. Manchester United are particularly susceptible on the counter-attack, but the positions they concede those goals are really interesting. So this graphic is from FPL Meerkat. He posted this last week. And what this shows is the areas in which Manchester United have conceded their goals so far this season. And it's very central and it's very close to goal. Striker areas. This is what we're looking at right now. Typically with these kind of graphics for various teams, you're going to see a bit of a spread. Some goals from edges of the box or, outside the box, all kinds of areas. Very rarely do you see it so clustered this close to the goal. So this is really going to favor strikers in these kind of games, or any player really who is driving into those central areas of the box. And for Crystal Palace, Mateta is one of those guys. I would say Ismaila Sarr is also one of those guys. So we're looking at a team who is poor away from home, who concedes a lot of goals centrally, who concedes a lot of goals on the counter-attack. By the way, Crystal Palace are like the best counter-attacking team in the Premier League right now. It all points in favour of Crystal Palace getting some goals in this game. This is a really good matchup for Crystal Palace attackers. So, Mateta is going to be in my team. Penalty taker as well, by the way, which always helps. And what that brings us, guys, is we look at the Game Week 13 goal scorer odds for this game week, what we have right now. This is coming in from FPL Salah. Haaland 68%, Thiago 48%, Watkins 45%. Don't know where that's come from, but it's there. That's what the bookmakers are saying. But Mateta is here at 44%. This does assume a start, by the way, for players. But 44%, that puts him very, very high on this list, and higher than a lot of the kind of midfielders in the 5-man midfields that we're seeing. So, for example, Sharda is at 32%. We see Dango at 28%. Those are probably the main two, right? But what I'm saying is Mateta has higher goal scoring odds. His penalties, I think, is a good tactical matchup for him as a pick, as well as Ismaila Sarr. It's going to depend on minutes tonight for me. So I'm going to check out how many minutes Mateta plays this evening in the Europa Conference League. If it is a lot, then I may be more tempted to switch to Sarr, who I see as a more reliable fitness guy. And, go for the 3-5-2 formation with Sarr in instead of Mateta. Or I could alternatively change to Sharda, drop Collins into a Matty Cash and just go full template. But I think Mateta could be a real nice differential this game week. Him or Ismaila Sarr. I want to see what happens tonight, but I really do like the idea of going for one of them. And I think this is kind of really looking at what are these games actually going to look like when they play out? What are teams' actual weaknesses? And we know Manchester United, and we know what Crystal Palace like to do. If Mateta gets the opportunities that I think he's going to in this game, Mateta is a set-piece threat as well, by the way. Man United, not exactly great at defending set pieces. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that Crystal Palace can get some goals in this game. So that is going to be my free hit team. Going onto the bench, guys, we've gone pretty simple, pretty cheap. Dubravka, Alderete, Potts, and Esteve. I've had to go really cheap on my bench to afford the starting 11. I also quite like this team as well because I think not too many people will be able to afford this team, actually, because obviously I have fairly high team value, which allows me to go for a slightly different structure to what you might see a lot of other people doing, which is quite nice. And, having that opportunity to go different, why not take it? Of course, switching Mateta to Sarr is a good way to save 1 million if you want to do it that way. So absolutely can be done that way as well. But yeah, this is what we're looking at. Haaland captain, Salah vice captain. I think genuinely this is looking like a pretty strong free hit team with enough little differentials against the main free hitters to be interesting, but also in terms of this team versus non-free hitters, this is just, this is going to be crazy different. Look how many players who are under 10% owned in this team. You got Martinez, O'Reilly, Vandenberg, Collins, Foden, Rodgers, and then you've got players like Gakpo on the edge, Salah on the edge. People are selling these players. Thiago's still a differential. It's really only Haaland and maybe Mateta in this team, they're actually going to be really popular among non-free hitters. So this is a differential team. Generally, it's slightly different to the free hit template. But I think, you know, hopefully I've been able to justify a lot of those decisions that I have been making in this team. So let me know what you think about it. Hopefully this is improved from my last draft. But keen to know your thoughts on things because I think it looks good. Also should be noted, obviously, my teams are usually data-backed, but Fantasy Football Hub's My Team tool does also like this team. It's given it a 97% rating, which is pretty strong for its game week rating. It is downplaying O'Reilly a little bit because I think it's not quite certain on O'Reilly's minutes. Similar situation with Gakpo. I think if these players were, you know, if we were to assume they play 90 minutes or at least close to 90 minutes, I think their projected points would go up just a little bit there. And we've covered really most of the big hitters for this week. So yeah, I think this looks good. Data backed. Hub seems to like it. I certainly like it. And the last question is, do you like it? And that's what I want to know next, guys. So there we go. If you've got any more free hit related questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer as many of you guys as I can. Please do drop a like on the video if you did enjoy. Make sure to check out Fantasy Gaming Hub if you want to check out that game and join me in playing this game week and in future game weeks too. I'd love to see you guys over there. But until tomorrow's video, thank you so much for watching and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.